When I first started making this video, I felt kind of bad for Paul. I'd only ever seen videos of random kids coming up to him in public, and I thought, what could this guy have possibly done to deserve this? And that, my friends, is when the full story started unraveling. The terrifying story of Paul Breach. So let's not lie to ourselves here. You have definitely seen this man on your For You page in the past couple of months, whether it's his extremely attractive dance skills or random kids stalking him in town.
Hey, I'm a pedo.
Enjoy yourselves. You ready?
This man's real name is Paul Breach, but he's more commonly known as SnapShotEye or Beauty Beyond the Eye, depending on when you came to know him. He's amassed a grand total of 883,000 followers on TikTok and seems to have a bunch of decoys because he's been spotted absolutely everywhere in the UK. He is also probably the most empathetic man I've ever met.
Oh, there's a plane crashed in Tanzania. Oh, blimey. Into the lake.
Paul Breach is also, undeniably, a bad person. Paul rose to fame very quickly, which makes it even more impressive how many controversies he's managed to find himself in. He went from green grass to talking to minors in less than a year. His channel originally blew up with a video of him creating an absolute club classic rivaling only Beethoven himself, the Jack Grealish song.
Do you remember? Before the Euros, there was a footballer.
And the genius lyrics of "He's my bubba boo" touched fans' hearts, and he went viral pretty much immediately. Now, Paul was certainly not the most self-aware of blokes. He seemed to find himself absolutely irresistible and do dances that should really only be left to TikTok e-boys. This mid-40s chap, ironically, seemed to find himself on everybody's For You page against their will, and let it all get to his head until it all came down seemingly at once. You see, during what seemed like the dream for Paul, getting bullied by teenagers on a TikTok comment section, a few screenshots emerged and started circling the internet. And with these screenshots came allegations. Allegations that Paul, when he was 27, had gotten a 16 to 17-year-old girl pregnant. Now, it's important to state, this is not a crime. Paul lives in the UK where the age of consent is 16. But realistically, is this morally right? Absolutely not. Dating a girl who was just barely passing the legal age, and I mean she is scraping her knees on that shit while you are almost 30, it's just wrong. It's just wrong. So these screenshots being released obviously had consequences. However, there was an issue with them. You see, they provided evidence that in 2008, Paul had a girlfriend, and it was reasonable to assume from the photos that this girlfriend was pregnant. But nowhere in the photos does it state her age. The name and face are blurred for privacy reasons, which, while absolutely fair enough, makes these claims pretty much impossible to confirm, which means Paul could just come out and say that this girl was not 17. But my friends, luckily for us, Paul is a fucking idiot. When DM'd about it, Paul responded with, "We were in love and bought a house together and spent years together. But you know, never mind." Paul, buddy, you just confessed. That's not the whole story, because of course, Paul very quickly got called out for even more. You see, Paul seems to like social media and interacting with people on it, especially when the people he's interacting with are 16 and in a bikini. Paul's old social media accounts were leaked where, while he was in his 20s, he was commenting under 16-year-old girls' posts, calling them yummy. May I also mention that the point of this website was to rate people's looks. Weird bloke. He also fairly recently got caught liking photos of a 16-year-old girl in a bikini on Instagram. But don't worry, Paul's a good guy. He had an excuse. You see, the girl had suffered from cancer when she was younger. Now look, I'd understand if it was a photo of her walking out of the hospital, raised hand and fist, but this wasn't a photo saying, "Yippee, I survived cancer." This is a photo showing off how good she looks in a bikini. Paul, you are 43. Not to mention all the other teenage girls you've been allegedly DMing on Instagram. Do you make sure that they had cancer at some point in their life first to make sure that they're passable to text, or are you just enchanted with some curse where every woman you speak to had a tumour in her life at some point? Honestly, I'd want to get rid of you more than I'd want to get rid of that tumour. I actually reached out to Paul before I started filming this video, before I realised how much stuff he'd actually allegedly done. I didn't get a response, which was surprising because I'm 16, so I'm right in his age range. He was also called out for DMing a young, ill girl on Instagram, and this part is debated. Some people say that this is exactly how grooming starts, a nice friendly message to crawl in to their space. Others say this is just a nice get well soon message. I think it's neither. I think that in Paul's mind, he's deluded himself into thinking that he is an actual celebrity, and this is the equivalent of like the Jonas Brothers sending a girl a DM. I think the only way that Paul can still really deny and elude these accusations while still believing himself is if he convinces himself the only reason he's getting this much hate is because he's a celebrity, and all celebrities get this much hate. But Paul, there are many people who are much more famous than you, and they get much less hate. Do you know why? Because they don't talk to kids. They also don't meet up with random 19-year-olds and take OnlyFans photos for them while letting them stay in your hotel room. But that's just the allegations for the children, my friends, because oh, there's more. You see, Paul wasn't always a TikTok superstar. He used to have a normal day-to-day job, and this job was a carer at a retirement home. Now I can feel the stress through the screens of you being worried about what I'm going to say next. You see, Paul has come out on TikTok and said that when he was working at these retirement homes, he used to kiss the elderly people on the forehead and on the cheek. Now this is a little bit strange. If you take the role and responsibility of taking care of the elderly, there are certain rules you have to abide by. Safeguarding rules, like when you're working with any other human being. But Paul seems to think that he is above the rules. And he also seems to think that everybody but him is a fucking idiot. Because even though there are literal clips of him saying that he did those things, a day later when he was confronted about it, he changed his story to say that he would press their cheek up against his and kiss the air. Like Mama had just made us some excellent spaghetti. Paul, we heard you say it yesterday. There's also the story that's probably the creepiest to me out of all of them. The story of the ex-girlfriend. You see, for a while, Paul dated a girl called Frankie. They met off TikTok, and after they broke up, Frankie deleted pretty much all of her social media, probably to avoid Paul's beady eyes poking at her through the screen, until she eventually came back under the account The Blonde Oldie. There was something strange about this account. You see, it only followed one person and was only followed by the same person. And can you guess who that person was? So people started suspecting that Paul might actually be the person behind this account. And when they DM'd it, they got this response. Is this the real Frankie? Yes, and I think the disrespect that Paul is getting is disgusting. He has not done anything wrong to me, and I'm pretty sure he's not done anything wrong to Sophie. He's a good man, and everyone who's trying to push him over the edge deserves to see the evil in themselves. It's horrible. Blonde Oldie, nobody mentioned anything about Paul there. Literally nothing. And immediately after that, the account deleted its profile picture and hasn't been active since. So it's pretty much suspected that Paul was actually running it. Yep, Paul creating a fake Instagram account and then pretending to be his ex-girlfriend. Actual serial killer behavior. Joe Goldberg needs to take a few tips. And the funny part about all of this is the fact that Paul is a massive man-child. While he may look like a 43-year-old man that would wolf whistle at girls at Wetherspoons, he's actually a massive crybaby. If you ever call Paul out on anything, make sure your account is private. And those aren't my words. Those are his. That's right, Paul has threatened to and actually doxed people multiple times just for critiquing him on social media. How, you might ask? You see, if you ever want to be a main star of Paul's live streams, and by that I mean if you ever just want to be able to comment on those streams, you have to first send Paul a DM, and that DM is telling him who you are. Why, you may ask? Well, once again, his words, it's so that if you start taking a piss in his chat, he can use it against you. He will post your profile and your information on his very public story and think it is absolutely acceptable because you said some mean things about him online. I cannot stress this enough, this man is 43. But then one day TikTok decided that enough was enough. And to a big relieving sigh from everyone in the community other than CSGO Surf commentary TikTok channels, Paul was banned. And this, my friends, was Paul's breaking point. If you thought this man was nuts before, no, he had fully gone insane now. He actually lost his marbles. At first, he went on his Instagram story and pretty much just made it seem like this was it, right? That he was banned, he was okay with that, and he would just live his life privately and normally. And that would have been the good ending. Well, the somewhat good ending. But then less than a day later, he made a brand new account and then snapped.
I'm far too fucking nice. You think you can do all this bullshit without any recompense? Well, make sure everything's private, people. Make sure everything is private. You post comments on my stuff, make sure you're fully private, because I'll also find a way. Don't know. This is going to be fun to watch. We're going to do a social experiment. Not going to do that. Not going to do that, because nobody would release identifiable places on the internet, would they? Nobody would do that, would they? Nobody would put people's families or friends in danger on the internet, would they? No, they wouldn't.
That's right, Paul actually went on live and threatened to dox everyone. He was claiming he doesn't care anymore because he's been banned now, and if this account gets banned, it's not his main anyway. And if that is the only thing stopping you, a 43-year-old man, from doxing people that are 23 years younger than you, there is something wrong with you up there, man. You see, an eye for an eye doesn't really work when the people are a third of your age. But now, my friends, I'm afraid we reach the worst part. See, I wrote this script about a month and a half ago because every time I would try to film this, my footage would get corrupted. And since then, the internet has done what the internet does best. This man has allegedly done so many terrible things that, if true, he is undoubtedly a bad person. However, everything that could have been outed on Paul has already been outed. All the allegations have come to light, and after that, there isn't really anything to talk about. And here is the bigger issue. We, and none of us are above this, aren't going to stay interested in a topic if nothing new comes from it. The internet has a new and more interesting thing happening every single second, which means while we've moved on and while we've started paying attention to something else, Paul has quietly gone back to making his old kinds of videos. Sure, he gets a few cringe reactions now and then, and he gets a bit annoyed on camera because, honestly, he misses the attention. It's nowhere near as much as it used to be before. He isn't anywhere near as close to spotlight, and barely anybody really talks about the allegations. So he's just continued singing, dancing, ruining every single George Ezra song, not that that's a particularly difficult accomplishment. And we've all moved on, which unfortunately concludes the complete timeline of Paul Breach. Thank you all for watching and taking the worst roller coaster ever with me. If you did enjoy this video, somehow, you know all the buttons are. Subscribe if you haven't already, because you've clearly made it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.